Today with Harvey Lewis, the Cincinnati kid. He just got done running 135 miles through frigid conditions in Minnesota. Welcome back, Harvey, and congratulations on your race.
Thank you so much, Craig, and it was a blast thinking about you guys back home and getting all the positive energy. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, well, one big thing is Tracy Outlaw was, unbelievable. He was posting, keeping everybody informed down here what was going on, because everybody's
going,
what's going on?
Trying to keep up with the Yeti.
It never ceases to amaze us, the amazing things you do, but just trying to get to the race. Sound like an adventure in itself.
Yeah,
going to the airport. It's like, was you thinking Murphy's Law was after you or something? Just tell us real quick on your trip to the airport.
We had to reroute ourselves to Indianapolis, and we had 120 miles of gas. And it was 121 miles to get there. And we had about just the very limited amount of time.
So you ran the last mile to the airport?
We almost had to, but unfortunately, we didn't want to leave his parents stuck on the road. So we worked it out, and we got to International Falls finally, but there was no sled.
Right, so, I was going to say, then the adventure still continues.
All right. I never got to practice with the sled until the actual day of the race, but it all worked out.
Yeah. So what was that feeling when you got there and they said, sorry, your luggage didn't make it?
Oh, I think I was just too tired at the time to really care much. Yeah, I actually, my father and my dad's friend, Tracy Outlaw, and another guy, Andy, they were all there. So I knew we'd come up with something. We had to go down to Kmart and buy a plastic sled or something.
Right.
We'd make up something.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was going to happen.
So how was that? Running with the sled.
That is something challenging. Actually, Badwater is a really hard race, as you know. But the Arrowhead 135 was probably the toughest race I've done, because I had to adapt in so many different ways, and I'm not, normally the cold is not something I just savor. I can't wait to get out into the cold, and so that made it challenging. But pulling a sled, basically the distance from Cincinnati to Columbus and then a marathon in snow that's smushy sand is really tough. It's really not easy. You just kind of have to embrace it, and it becomes a part of you.
Right.
You just try to get as good of a form as you possibly can. And also, one of the products you guys sell at the store is TriSlide. Not one of my sponsors, but I will say this is the best stuff I've ever used in my entire life by 3 times.
Where were you using?
This I put all around my waist, wherever the spots were, where my belt was, or the harness for the sled. And I felt a couple times areas that could have gotten rubbed with it, but because I had the TriSlide on, I actually reapplied it once during the race.
So it didn't freeze?
It didn't freeze, and I didn't have one single mark from rubbing.
Now, do you use it on your feet?
I put this, the secret to the feet is I put it on my feet before I put my socks on.
Right.
And it's golden. I don't even get blisters typically. I had one blister in this race, but that was just part of the element of going 135 miles, and you get your body moving a little bit weird.
And you wore the Newton. You didn't wear special boot we had talked earlier?
No, Newton trail shoes. In fact, I have here with these crazy socks on. They were fantastic. They were wonderful. I wore them the whole race, and my feet didn't get wet. I also wore another thing you saw in the store that I didn't even know existed. I came into the store, I think it was on Friday before the race, and I ran into Melissa and some other employees, and they said, "Hey, we got this new product, these seal skins." Seal skins. That kind of a novelty. You know what? Those were amazing. My feet didn't get wet. First thing they showed me putting the socks into the water, and they didn't even penetrate. And I was like, that sounds like a really good idea. I don't want to get frostbite on my toes. That's something I value a lot. So they were amazing.
But does the heat escape once you're running in them?
No. My feet were warm the whole time. Yeah, they were fantastic. Yeah. So for something that's really a bit cold or extreme, you want to protect your.
Or you're going to do a bunch of lake crossings or or stream crossings.
That's right. The seal skins were amazing.
Fantastic. So tell us about the terrain, I guess. Pulling the sled going up. I'm thinking downhill's got to be a pain. Running downhill with a sled. Do you put it in front of you and have it drag you downhill?
I didn't know how to do this thing exactly, and I only went off of advice that people had given me, and I had gotten a lot of good advice from different racers. But I use this pulley system. It's basically a company in the U.S. and it's set up for expeditions. You basically have these 6-foot poles that attach to your belt and then attach to the plastic sled. So it's easy because the sled doesn't like bounce as you're going.
Right.
But the problem is when you're going downhill, well, it's a great thing that can push you downhill, but you don't get the opportunity to take the poles off and slide down the hill. And that's my biggest lesson from this race is that people actually, the most effective way to race this race is to sled ride down the hills. And the guy that tied me for second was incredible. In fact, I love watching him like sled ride down the hill. I'm like,
We've seen some of your video.
It
It looked awesome.
Yeah, it was so funny.
And I'm wondering, why aren't you sliding down? But
I know, but that's it, because in actually an hour and a half into the race, I nearly broke one of my poles. And so I knew at that point I had to be really careful, because if I broke one of the poles, it was really hard to rig up a system of just using the one.
Right.
And so I knew that there was a chance of doing that if I slid down. I wasn't set up for it. But if I ever go back to the race.
So he had a rope or some kind of wire?
Yeah, he had a rope that was attached to his belt, and then he just easily jumped into the sled and wow, on his way down.
Wow.
So next time I would definitely do it that way. And that's the only way the record up.
Okay. So there's enough downhill.
Yes.
To where it's
yes.
gonna be
We had a Swede that won first place, and he built his own sled out of specialized plastic. He did the sled riding down the hill.
So how many hours? 38 hours?
38, 45.
Wow. Fantastic. So what, was there a spot in there where you just said, what am I doing here? Why am I,
Probably more than once.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, the hardest part for me was probably the first night, and basically into the night, once I had passed mile marker 73, the checkpoint there, which was a beautiful lodge in the middle of the wilderness. I mean, we saw perhaps fewer than, in these in International Falls, you see a couple little houses as you're leaving, and a horse farm. And after that, you don't see any houses, nothing, just wild wilderness the whole way.
So that's where most people quit, because the lodge is so nice and they don't.
The lodge is beautiful, yeah. And there's a frozen lake that you cross before that lodge. It was my favorite spot. It's just absolutely beautiful. But after I got past that, it was really hard in the middle of the night. I was so tired. I was the most tired of my whole life, and I had that sleeping bag. I just kept on. It took every morsel of energy and willpower not
so
to
you didn't
climb into
sleep.
the sleeping bag. Yeah,
stop.
I didn't sleep.
Just eat something there. And
at that point, Jan, who was also the second place finisher, tied with me. He and I were hammering it out for second place and just going back and forth nonstop. It was like relentless.
Right.
And at a point in the middle of the night, we're like, okay, truce. We're just gonna work together, and we were able to collaborate and make each other better for it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was great experience. Incredible scenery on endless pine trees for as far as I can imagine.
So would you go back?
I would go back.
Nice.
Yes, I wouldn't have said that like 48 hours ago, but I would go back.
Okay. Well, what's next on the agenda? What are you planning to do?
Next up is the 24-hour World Championship. We have 6 men and 6 women going representing the United States. It's April 11th and 12th in Italy.
Wow.
And so I'll be changing my training routine from intense cold and slow miles to working on speed. Bam! Let's go.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's go.
So 6 men, 6 women from the U.S.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. It'll be exciting. So.
And then after that,
After that, we're going to Badwater.
Nice.
Come on,
Let's
we're
hope
going
so.
back to Badwater. Yes.
So what's happening with RunQuest Travel? I know you guys put on a bunch of vacation tours, I guess running tours.
Yes, RunQuest Travels, we take people on running holidays, and we're going to Portugal June 6th through the 13th. We'd love to have a couple guests from the store. If you're interested, you can get hold of me through Craig or go to runquesttravel.com, and it's phenomenal. Basically, it's not a race each day, but we run in different areas of the country, national parks, beautiful, charming towns.
Fantastic.
And each day we have a run, and amazing food, the best food of my whole year.
Fantastic. Harvey, thanks for being with us
Thank you
today.
so
We
much.
really appreciate it. Good
Thanks
luck at the
everyone that
24-hour World Championship.
I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for coming out and with the energy and all the positive postings on Facebook. It was amazing.
Fantastic. Remember, running is easy. Right, left, repeat. Just don't forget to smile.